Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are in a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Arn. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer himself, the founder of the Four Horsemen, the creator of the Spine Buster. He is AA the Enforcer. Arn Anderson. Arn, how are you, man?
Very good. How are you?
Man,
I'm actually floating, you know.
Oh yeah. Listen, it's time. I talked a lot of trash and you were humble Job, and now here you are. I wish I could cue music right now. We are the champion. Georgia stomped a mud hole in Alabama. Congratulations, dude.
I don't know about that stomp in a mud hole, and I'm going to be very conservative here because you guys are the cream of the crop in college football. We know that. Every now and then a team will play up to its, or over its expectancy and pull one off. Georgia Bulldogs played together, and they came out in the second half, and I called it. I said, if Alabama comes out after getting their ass chewed out, which I assume is what happens, you tell me, because in the second half, they come out and they just score at will, right?
Yeah, there's halftime adjustments, I believe is the phrase, but you couldn't make an adjustment for, a couple of games ago, we lost our very best receiver. And during this game, torn ACL for our second best receiver. Yeah, Bryce had nobody to throw it to. And Stetson Bennett, man, his life is a movie now, is it not?
I guess so, yeah. I guess he has quite a story. I know for Georgia fans, lifelong Georgia fans, it's it's almost you pinch yourself and go, is this really real?
Yeah.
It's been so long. And a little bit of a history. The last time they won, it was 80 with Herschel, right?
Yeah. I didn't see that. I was born in 81. I wanted to ask, are you a lifelong Georgia fan? Like from a little kid all the way up?
Yep. And here's how deep the tie is. On that 80 championship team, Nat Hudson was I think the left tackle. He played high school at West Rome. I played against him in our championship. Ray Donaldson, who is a all-pro, all everything, was the center for 13 years in the NFL, I think. I don't know how many years he was all-pro. He got a ring, and he when he was with the Cowboys, and he played with Indianapolis Colts. So Ray and I were dual inside linebackers in 76.
Wow. That's awesome.
East Rome High School. You could tell then he was something special. So yes, I have been a fan for a long time.
Well, I'm proud for you, man. My dad was elated. I remember as a younger man, my dad was so over the moon in 92 when Alabama upset Miami. Cause the Hurricanes were just destroying everybody. And longtime fans will remember Alabama wound up winning by a considerable sum. And they were playing the Heisman Trophy winner. And, they had all these accolades, Gino Torretta. It just felt like, man, this is done deal. and Alabama somehow pulled it off. And my dad was over the moon because he hadn't seen a championship since, the 70s. And now I can only imagine, here we are 20 something years later, I guess 30 years later now. And we're talking about Georgia winning one for the first time in 41 years. That's a big doggone deal for the whole fan base, especially I couldn't help but think about you. And of course I thought about the Schiavone family, all those youngins, going to those games all those years, and Tony being a part of the organization. And it was a really cool deal to see another SEC school that's been on the cusp for so many years, because it felt like Mark Richt was going to get y'all there a dozen times and it just didn't happen. And for it finally to happen, and with a great quarterback story like that, it really is like out of a movie, dude.
Well, you were very gracious. That's why I'm going to be very gracious too, and not jump up and down and do a standing gainer, which I'd probably end up blowing both my knees out anyway. So yeah, it was one of those things. It wasn't a jump up and go around and grab a bottle of Jack Daniels and turn it up. It was just sink back on the couch and just go, wow, those kids did it.
Yeah.
It's amazing on both teams, that number 31 for Alabama and the number 17 for Georgia, how they can just take over a game.
Yeah.
Just one. And they did it. Both of those guys. I mean, it was like, I don't know how many, tackles and sacks and what the stats were on either one of those guys, but my God, they were all over the place.
So listen, I got to ask, I couldn't help but notice you were not happy with the officiating in the game. It's very seldom I see someone win a game and a championship they've been trying to hope to win for 4 decades, but they're still griping about officiating. What was so egregious in the game?
I just don't think, I think when one call with Georgia for grounding, okay, that's grounding, but almost the exact same thing happens to Alabama. It's not grounding. There was one play in particular where the ball came loose and the guy caught the fumble going out of bounds and his toe was right on the line, right?
Yep.
And they shot it from the back. They never gave you the telltale shot. And this was at a pivotal point in the game. I mean, this could have turned everything around. They didn't shoot the overhead shot, which would literally give you, was his toe on the line or not? There were several calls. I don't remember them all, but it was just like in the first one where they lost the ball and when they scored and they called it back and called it something else. It's usually like when you miss an extra point on your first touchdown, you go, that's going to come back and bite us on the ass. I just thought, okay, they brought that one back. Let them play, for God's sakes. They're playing Alabama. Number one, they got all the advantages they need because they're just better than everybody else. Let's don't penalize the other team. And it just felt like there was a few plays that weren't equally distributed, and it got so many. And some of them were holding. If you wanted to, Conrad, because you can
call it on every play.
Every play.
Holding happens
on both teams.
Yes.
On both teams.
Yes.
So, hey, this is for the national championship. Let them play.
I mean, as a younger man, as you know, I'm sure you played some offensive line or defensive line, whatever. The offensive linemen are straight up taught, if you're going to hold right here in the middle. If your arms are on the outside, it's very obvious you're holding, but right here, it just looks like you're pushing. You got 2 handfuls of jerseys. Kids are taught that in Pee Wee.
You know what we were taught, as this is how far back I go. If you're an offensive lineman, you fire out, hit him with your head, and you have your forearms up. If you would have actually reached out and grabbed the guy, and they could have pulled it back, you didn't have replay and all that shit back then in high school football. But if somebody would have saw that, they would go, well, idiot, you're so obvious. What did you think was going to happen? We didn't teach that technique.
Right.
Well, now they let them get away with it a little bit, but if you're going to let them get away with it a little bit, apply it across the board. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it was interesting that
I ain't scared. I ain't scared.
Oh, I'm not saying you are. I just thought it tickled me that Georgia won and you're still fussing about officiating. That's when I realized Mr. Lundy might be getting a little older. Because you take your victory lap.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, let me pay you in Alabama the biggest compliment I can. Okay. And I may be the only guy that feels this way. But when they had the ball with 52 seconds left and Alabama had the ball, I thought Georgia was going to lose that game.
What?
Yep. I thought they were going to hum one in the end zone, do one of those Alabama miracles, get the kickoff, the onside kick, and get another score in 30 seconds. That was going through my mind, and I'm going, why aren't they playing? Right. Why in Georgia in a nickel defense and got 10 people 30 yards back? Well, I mean, what the hell what are they doing here? Did you feel that way, that they just kind of ran the clock out and they weren't trying to catch up?
I'm not trying to be a boo bird, but when both of our stud wide receivers go down and now we're playing with second and third string guys running routes, they're not in a rhythm with Bryce in a way where they could compete with Georgia starters. That was the way I felt. That was the way my dad felt. We knew when he went down, and he was Jamison Williams, that wide receiver, when he goes down and he wasn't tackled to land the way he did, you could just tell, oh, that's an ACL. I mean, you could just see like he ain't coming back. And then, of course, on the second part when they come back from halftime, they say he's not coming back out. He won't play again or what have you. It was like, well, let's just see what the defense can do. Because at that point, the show that you've seen with Alabama and Bryce and his receivers, well, it's over. So now it's a matter of, can you run, which we've seen we can run, but usually the run is only allowed because they're scared of the pass. But if you don't have to respect that, then here we go. And hey, it was a fun game, but in the end, I'm not upset that my friend's team won. As I've said a few times on the show, we're playing with house money as an Alabama fan. I was so spoiled when we got one in 92 and 09. Every year since it's felt like house money. And I'm an eternal optimist, right? So I'm thinking, hey, we got Will Anderson Jr. coming back. We got Bryce coming back next year. We're going to be good.
You guys will never not be good.
Well, until Saban goes, right?
Well, yeah. And then it just depends on who's going to come in to take over and, either rebuild or just tack on to the momentum that he left.
Hey, so I know we're talking a lot of football here. I want to try to tie in some wrestling. We are going to be talking about February of 87, but since I spiked the ball on Arn pretty good, I thought I should just take my whipping, and he had mercy on me. So congrats to the Bulldogs and Kirby Smart and the whole team. And man, I really do hope Stetson's story becomes a movie or a book or something, because it's bigger than just football. A lot of moms would love that story. But let's talk about something else that happened in football that I wondered, has there ever been a wrestling comparison? Antonio Brown made a lot of headlines a couple of weeks ago when he just quit in the middle of a football game. And we've had a little bit of time to marinate on it now, and a lot of people have their different opinions. And I do think, maybe there's some mental health issues that need to be addressed, and maybe they weren't, because God, what a player he has been. But now quitting in such dramatic fashion. Do you remember ever seeing anything like that in wrestling? Like, the only thing I can think of, and it is different, is when Dennis Condrey just disappeared one day, just gone. Is there a better example in wrestling of someone pulling an Antonio Brown?
And that was when the Midnight Express was on top, and Dennis was making the most money he had ever made.
Yeah.
Business was on fire. And we got off a plane and everybody went home like a Sunday evening or something. We had an afternoon show, and the next day, no Dennis, and no Dennis ever again. That was the craziest thing. You think that the NFL has guidelines, unless a person literally just flipped completely out to safeguard against something like that. Or either the players would be so terrified of the ramifications that if that was just an act, that you wouldn't go that far, because it's embarrassing, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're playing the NFL, if you're the coach, you're supposed to have that guy's respect. He's supposed to have yours. And this was all open. Now, did I hear this right? Before I step in a big turd here, didn't they want to put him in and he said he was hurt? and couldn't go in?
Well, listen, there's a lot of he said, she said between the team and him. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I just know the result is he quit in the middle of the game. And I've just never seen that before. We've heard a lot of folks, not travel back with the team and they quit in the locker room or what have you over the years. I shouldn't say a lot, but it's happened. But in the middle of a game, I'm just going to take my jersey off and run through the field and I'm out of here. It was quite a spectacle.
When you're like you've been that Uber driver sitting there and all of a sudden the door opens and you look in your rearview mirror and there's Antonio Brown saying, "Hey man, go to 7-Eleven. I need 12 pack."
I'm curious though, is Dennis Condrey the only thing that's close? And again, I'm not comparing their real life situations. We don't know the circumstances, but just here's a guy who just won the Super Bowl, who's playing with Tom Brady, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. They're going to be in the playoffs. He's a couple of plays away from making big money as bonuses. Sure, he probably has an injury thing. I'm not discounting that, but I'm just saying, rather than play the game and just, I don't mean the actual game, I mean the political game, and just ride it out, we're quitting right in the middle and nobody really knows why. It felt a little like, man, that's kind of like when Condrey just didn't show up again.
Yeah, it's too crazy to even believe that it's real.
Yeah. I
refuse to believe that the guy just did all that with no thought of repercussions, that he just completely flipped, because if you completely flip out and do that on national television, you're not in control of your faculties. So how do you reel it back in? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't wait to hear the full story. I mean, I bet he comes out and says something like, I didn't want to and I don't have to. And there is something to that there's have tos and get tos in this world. And if he felt like he didn't have to, and it wasn't something he was looking forward to getting to, then see you sayonara. But we'll see what happens. But we're going to talk about what happens with Dennis Condrey next month, at least a little bit, as much as we know. Because that actually happened in February of 87 when Condrey did his big disappearing act. But we're going to pick up where we left off right now, talking about February of 87. And man, you guys are, you don't quite maybe know it yet, but as the story goes, WrestleMania 3, according to Mr. Crockett, changed everything in the way he thought he had to compete with Vince McMahon. Let my family save your family some cash. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket, but we will save you money. It's not a matter if, it's a matter of how much. SaveWithConrad.com. And that's going to happen at the end of March, 1987. So we're just 1 month away from that here. We start the first off, though, February 1st, in front of 4,500 fans at the Omni. You're on third, taking on Brad Armstrong. Luger is going to come out and trip Brad Armstrong as he's attempting a suplex, and that allows you to fall on top, and you get the win. Of course, Lex Luger has been courted a little bit on TV by J.J. Dillon, and this is the first time we had seen the quote-unquote expansion for the Horsemen. What'd you think of this, having JJ and Lex at ringside for you?
I thought it was good because it put Brad in a really bad situation as a babyface, and that's always good because you get the audience in their hip pocket. When it takes three guys to beat one guy, you got to be thinking, well, they must think this guy's pretty good. So your story is in place big time. And Brad was a great performer. He was a good friend of mine. And to screw him like that, it elevated Brad.
Let's also mention the next day, you're going to be doing Greenville, South Carolina. You're in the fourth match that day, taking on Wahoo. And then you're doing TV tapings in Spartanburg. Here we'll see you get a win over Tommy Angel with a spine buster and a gourd buster in 4 minutes and 42 seconds. In your mind, when did the spine buster replace the gourd buster, or did it ever as your finisher? I mean, we know you used the DDT. We know you used the spine buster. We know you used a gourd buster, but was there a transition period? Because I think it started with the gourd buster and maybe eventually became the spine buster, or how did that work?
No, I just think that I could get to the spine buster virtually from anywhere. I could hit that as long as the guy was coming off the ropes. or coming out off the second turnbuckle or whatever it may be, I could catch him. I'd have to stop a guy, shut him completely down to hit a gourd buster. So it was a more deliberate. I would use it in matches that I was in full control before I won versus guys that were about to beat me, and then I turned it around and beat them. That was the thought process.
What of the three, between the DDT, the spine buster, and the gourd buster, overall, did the spine buster get the biggest crowd reaction?
Yeah, because nobody else did it.
Yeah.
It's my move. It was a AA spine buster. All of us that ripped Jake off by stealing his DDT, he did a great one, but there was a couple of other very good ones around, and it was, we ripped him off. Nobody was doing the spine buster. So
who do you remember the first guy being to rip off the spine buster? Do you recall? I'm not asking you to dunk on him. I'm just saying, do you remember?
No. It would have probably, be honest with you, not seeing guys that were like working house shows and all that stuff. But one of the guys that it kind of shocked me and it flattered me, and it was, at the time, it was pretty cool, is Hunter came to me and asked if he, I minded if he used it.
Well, that's cool.
And he was certain, he was already in position, to be the next boss. He was positioned as a top guy with the company, and to have that respect to come up and say that. Yeah. That I remember very clearly.
Well, we don't talk about current stuff all that often, but since you mentioned it, I feel like I should ask your opinion. I know you're not there, so you don't have any inside information. So I'm not asking for scoops. I'm asking for your opinion. What'd you think, or what'd you make of the news that it seems like Hunter's crew is out at NXT? It was recently announced that Samoa Joe, Mr. Regal, and both the Armstrong boys are no longer with WWE. Considering that not that long ago, Road Dogg was really riding SmackDown and was on the Inner Circle, and gosh, Regal's been there forever. Those caught me off guard. What say you?
I don't really know for sure what's going on, but it seems like to me that anybody that makes over $150 a day, they're getting rid of. I'm thinking they're going to just clean house with every contract that is even relatively substantial, and they're going to start over. Okay, guys, we're going to revamp this company from the ground up. You're going to make a fifth of what you used to make, but it's still more money than you're qualified to make anywhere else. So if you're a wrestler and you're in the wrestling business, do you, just because you made $1 million last year, are you going to turn down 250?
Right.
To go sell cars? Don't know. That's the only thing I can think. And what they have is a handsome look for their investors, for their TV affiliates and all that. It all looks really good on paper, because they make no mistake, Fox and USA, when they look at those numbers, they got to be horrified, because that's not what they signed on for.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with NXT. There's lots of rumors and innuendo, but I agree. Once upon a time, it felt like Hunter was maybe the heir apparent, but based on the news we see, it almost looks like that's no longer the case.
I could be honest with you. I could be way off, and everybody that has an opinion could be way off. This, in the history of the business, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's good God.
Well, I want to mention in 87 here, February 5th, you're working in Harrisonburg, Virginia. It's a high school gym. There's 1,600 people there, but that's a sellout. And you're going to be working with Brad Armstrong. Brad gets the win. The next day, you're working on top. And this is in Richmond, Virginia. And this is kind of fun. 5,500 fans are here. It's Ron Garvin and Bob Armstrong wrestling Arn and Ole Anderson. So Bob Armstrong coming into the territory. He had briefly done an angle back in 86, but now he's here to work some shows, and you're standing across the ring from him, a guy that you had a soft spot for. This must have been a pretty cool deal for you.
Yeah, besides being having the respect I had for him as a performer and all that, I had equally as much respect as a man. He was like a father figure to me. He really was. He took care of me. He treated me so well. He had me in his home when I was working for Pensacola. They had me over for Thanksgiving dinner. It was like they kind of took me into their family, and I never forgot that. I never will forget it. And nothing but respect for Bob Armstrong.
It's pretty crazy to think too. Bob Armstrong started wrestling in 1960. And here he is wrestling with you in 87. You know, I know we just briefly mentioned him, but I oftentimes think maybe that we wrestling fans forget, you know, there's another pretty damn special family in wrestling. It's not just about the Von Erichs in Texas or the Harts in Canada. There's also the Armstrongs, you know, Georgia and Florida and Alabama. I mean, I know a lot of our listeners, myself included, we didn't see it, but my dad remembers going to Montgomery and seeing the Bullet. And a lot of folks did back in the day. He was one of the top draws in that territory for a long, long time.
Yeah. And probably over a 10-year period straight.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than that. Yeah. I mean, they really were. And, you know, the thing is, they could all perform. They all added something special to the business. They were great workers. They understood the business. Every single one of them could perform. And, so they earned whatever kudos. They probably are not given enough credit. Like you said, they are one of those families in wrestling that you go, wow, okay, that's right. Those guys were phenomenal.
I can't wait to see what's next for the Armstrong boys, because I'm sure the Armstrong legacy in wrestling is not done. There's more to be done. Greensboro, North Carolina. We got 11,641 fans there on February 7th to see you team up with Lex Luger to take on Wahoo McDaniel and Baron Von Raschke. I guess this makes sense. We're trying to get the new kid some reps and give him an opportunity to learn and sit under the learning tree, or all those wrestling cliches. What do you remember about tagging with Lex right after his debut? I mean, he's been here for a month at this point, and now you're in there with him, Wahoo and Baron. Tons of experience, and Lex Luger. Tell me about it.
Probably wasn't the best choice of opponents for Lex. If you're going to try to get him over, that would have been much better if it would have, let's just say,
Brad Armstrong.
Brad and Bob.
Yeah.
Brad and Ronnie Garvin.
Yeah.
You know, Tim Horner, and even Tim Horner and Brad. Baron's not going to bounce around. He was towards the twilight of his career already. Wahoo, you know, I think met Luger for the first time down in Florida, and he might have even brought him in. Was Wahoo the booker when Luger was in Florida?
Oh, now he may have been. I'm not sure about that. I need to look.
$64,000 question. So if he did, he would have probably been generous with Lex if he had that history with him.
Well, but your point is these are older guys, and sometimes you need guys to up, down, up, down. And, you know, we haven't talked about this before, and I don't even know how you feel about the term, but we wrestling fans hear a phrase all the time. I want you to break down for some of our listeners who may not be familiar with it. What does bump and feed mean?
It means when a baby face hits you with a strike or a throw or a move or a suplex, go with it. Make it spectacular and sell it to the degree it should be sold. If one of the things I hate is this back and forth strong style, forearm me, I'll forearm you, forearm me, I'll forearm you. And nobody has even knocked the other guy's head a quarter turn. If I hit somebody with a flipper and he does a move, I'm going to walk right over, step through the ropes, hit the floor, and disappear back in the locker room, because apparently I am not going to be able to do anything with Superman today.
I love it. JCP is going to be in Greenville on February 9th, and we've got Arn Anderson teaming with Lex Luger to take on Bob Armstrong and the Boogie Woogie Man. Originally, this was advertised as Brad Armstrong and Tim Horner, but it winds up being Bob and Jimmy Valiant. They're going to give Lex a different type of match. He's getting a lot of different looks here, is he not?
Yeah, and I'm wondering how I figured out to take all the bumps for both teams.
Yeah.
because that's what had to have happened. Boogie, no bump. He's no bumper. God bless him. He's Shakespeare all along, all the time. Bob ain't going to take a bunch of bumps. He might have went down once. Who won that match? Had to be those guys, and they had to beat me.
No,
right?
you and Luger won. They're putting Luger over strong here, man. If I had to guess, I would guess Luger pinned Boogie Woogie. I'm just guessing.
Maybe even put him in the rack.
How about that?
Wow. But that would have meant Boogie would have had to give up. He might not have been happy about that. That's a $64,000 question. Get Silva on it, will you?
Yeah. Silva needs to do something. You know what I'm going to do, though? I'm going to play a couple of promos. These aired on the syndicated show on February 7th. We've got a single promo here from Arn, I think. Let's take a listen.
Lights out cage match, the Rock and Roll Express against Ravishing Rick Rude and the Raging Bull with Paul Jones. That's all in Raleigh. Here's Arn Anderson for the U.S. title against Nikita Koloff.
Let me explain something to you, Nikita. The American sports system is laid out in one way. It's called chronological order. See, to get to the champion, first of all, you got to get what we call broke in. Then you got to beat somebody with some credibility. Then you got to beat somebody a little better, somebody a little better. Then you got to become a champion. Then you get considered for a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. Well, you did all that, Nikita. You're the U.S. Heavyweight Champion. But see, if you leave that backside exposed, I'll beat you in Raleigh. You won't be in line for that title shot, and that's what we're hoping on.
So you were promoting there tickets for the Dorton Arena show, February 12th. There's going to be 5,200 fans there for that TV taping. Nikita would get the win, but I bet he cheated. You know it?
He had to have.
I mean, there's no way he could beat you clean. I know that. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, and I always thought my neck was bigger than his anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he was giving working numbers. You were like a shoot badass. He was just a pretend tough guy. Everybody knows.
Well said. Well said, Johnny. Well said.
Here's a promo from that same episode of Pro. It aired on February 7th, 1987. Here are the Horsemen. Let's take a listen.
Okay, Bob, we're here with the world television champion, Tully Blanchard, James J. Dillon, Arn Anderson.
Well, Tony Schiavone, Ric Flair was just out here dressed immaculately as usual. But Tully and myself are fixing to kick a little backside up here, so we were going to give all the people a chance to see a little skin. You see, don't you find it peculiar that it's February, and here we stand, bronzed and bulked out of our gourds, you see, while everybody else gets up in the morning and watches Roadrunner and eats French toast. Tully and myself and Flair are in that gym training and in that sun bed, because you see, when you're one of the four horsemen and you go to any public place, you got an appearance to keep up, you got a self-respect you got to keep up, and above and beyond everything else, Tony Schiavone, we are looking way too good tonight, and James J has something to show you, buddy. Let's take a little break here, because I want to spend a little time here. This deserves a little special attention.
Okay, we'll take a break and come right back with the three gentlemen.
I like that, man. The little tease.
Wow, that doesn't happen all the time.
No, it does not. Let's see if there's a payoff here in the group promo, because I think you guys do one more as a group. But I don't know why, man. But listen to these old promos; it just gets me fired up. This is like might be my favorite part of wrestling. It's just hearing you guys talk your shit. Let's take a listen.
By James J. Dillon, two of the four horsemen, and Lex Luger.
Well, as I look at the monitor, this is a good-looking picture. Lex Luger sure adds to this picture. Seems to fit right in with the horsemen. You know, Tully Blanchard did a very nice thing last Christmas because of the great job that he said that I did for him as his administrative director last year. Gave me 25% of the stock of Tully Blanchard Enterprises, which up to that point was held solely by him. And one of the first things that I've advised Lex Luger to do is to take some of his money, and I'm guiding it towards buying some of the stock of Tully Blanchard Enterprises. A lot of things happen fast around here, and the wheels are really in motion. And Barry Windham thought he had things really going his way, and maybe he's got a matchup now. It's going to try and impress a lot of people. We want to stay here and just see what he's got.
Okay, let's go to the ring.
So now you guys are going to watch Barry wrestle. Barry's going to talk some trash. You guys are going to come in, Flair included. It becomes a big pull apart. Flair's wrestling in pants, but it really breaks down in a major way. But more importantly, the groundwork is laid. Hey, Lex Luger doesn't just want to be a horseman. He's hanging around the horseman. It's feeling like it's something that even JJ wants when he says, hey, look at that picture. Doesn't that look good? So we're planting the seeds of Lex being a horseman. That's good stuff, man.
It's escalating for sure. Big time.
We talked earlier about you wrestling Tommy Angel. That would actually air on Worldwide on February 7th. And there's a Horseman promo. Let's take a listen.
Television champion Tully Blanchard, James J. Dillon, Lex Luger. Is he officially a Horseman?
Well, the Horsemen are a very unique group, something that comes along once in a lifetime. When you got a world heavyweight champion, a world television champion, the greatest tag team combination in wrestling, a man will be a fool to even think about breaking up that combination. We're an elite group. We're tight. I've said on record, we do not plan to expand at this time, but I think it's worthy of pointing out that Lex Luger is a stockholder in Tully Blanchard Enterprises. That means he's got to be tight with the right people. And Tully, like we've said, there's always room in the limousine for Lex Luger. A great star in his own right, but he decided, as me said many times publicly, he wanted to take himself one step higher, and that's being part of the Horsemen. Well, I tell you what, Lex, right here, baby, that's a handout, and I am one of the Horsemen, baby. Good things have already happened since I've become an associate of the Horsemen. They know my intentions. I will and do want to become a Horseman, but good things are happening. My net value has already increased through the graciousness of Tully Blanchard Incorporated. And also, you know, they're talking about the new sensation. Like there's a group of guys called the Horsemen who have been sensational year in and year out. And that's why I want to be Horsemen, because I'm going to be doing it year in and year out with the Horsemen. That's what it is, Lex. It's making money all the time. And I tell you what, Bob Connell, all you people, you want to see what the Horsemen are? That's the Horsemen right there. Double A. Do it, baby. Do it, Double A.
So he throws to you. You're going to put the beat down on Tommy Angel, but I'm loving this evolution of the Lex Luger story. In hindsight, that was pretty well done, man.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
You know, in hindsight, being 2020, making everything perfect, it would have been nice to someone to just allude, Ole should be back anytime, something like that, just to make you think.
Yeah.
That was a detail that maybe got dropped. We'll see.
Yeah. I can't argue that. You guys are going to be back in Atlanta doing your thing on TBS February 14th, Valentine's Day. You're going to beat Zane Smith with the Gourd Buster. A quick squash. You also had a squash match on Worldwide on February 14th. But more importantly, we get a promo here from you on the 14th on Worldwide. I guess the Horsemen are in tow as well. Let's take a listen.
No doubt, another impressive win for Lex Luger, and yes, the Horsemen are feeling good.
You know, Tony Schiavone, you talk about the man in the gym. You saw him use probably 20 moves, more wrestling moves than half of the wrestlers know. The man is a wrestling machine. You know, I had a very interesting letter this morning from a little old grandmother up in Pennsylvania that said she's been watching every week the Horsemen and what they're doing, and she likened us to the Titanic. And she said every week she tunes in on World Championship Wrestling, waiting for the impending disaster. Well, I'm going to tell you something. The Titanic was a well-built ship. There was nothing wrong with her. And she would have gone down if the captain had been doing his job, if the man on radar had been doing his job, if the man down in the boiler room had been doing his job. Well, Ric Flair is doing a fine job defending the World Heavyweight Championship all over this world. Tully Blanchard is doing an excellent job defending the world television title, putting the $10,000 up that says he is the very best at what he does. The Andersons continue to demolish people, and our very close associate, Lex Luger, just gave you a demonstration of his skills. So to the little old grandmother up in Pennsylvania, you sit in front of your TV every week, get you a big basket of chips, pretzels, and whatever else you like, and you wait for the impending disaster. But I got a good, strong feeling that picture tube's going to burn out before you see the four horsemen go down. Right, Lex? That's right. You know what I said? The Road Warriors, they were scoring to talk. They're big, they're muscular, but then it came Lex Luger. I'm taller, I got the same muscles, but lo and behold, I've got some definition in this body. There's no body fat here. Now everybody's talking about this. You don't see Road Warriors, they're hitting the gym right now. They're trying to look like me. You know, the four horsemen are where it's at. The squad stirs a drink of professional wrestling. You know, the pro wrestling is a luxury condo. You're on the top floor, but you're on the whole floor, the penthouse suite, all the other wrestlers are down below them. Just like everybody else. The Horsemen, Lex Luger is where the wrestling world is at. You know, the gym's full of muscle heads, but there's only one. What do you say? Total package? That's it. I love total that. Package. You know, Tony Schiavone, I like that analogy about being the top floor of the penthouse. But, you know, we got hot and cold running women. Right, Double A? All right. All right. Do it.
Okay, in the ring, Arn Anderson.
So they're going to throw to you for your match, which we mentioned briefly, but Man, you can really feel how nervous Lex is. He's going to settle in and get comfortable, but he's not quite there yet. But boy, I love that line about, you don't see the Road Warriors are here. You know why? They're at the gym trying to look like me. I don't know those guys the way you did, but that feels like something I might not would have said as the new guy on camera.
I'm sure they had the receipt already in mind. You can bet your ass that they were pissed about it.
Who would have been more pissed, Hawk or Animal?
Probably Animal.
Yeah.
Just guessing.
I could get that too. Let's mention that you're back on the road that night. That's a double shot here on Valentine's Day, working with Wahoo at the Armory in Lynchburg. The next day, you're doing a matinee show in front of 3,000 fans for something called Mosca Mania. This is, of course, a tribute show, I guess, a celebration for Angelo Mosca. And you're going to be taking on Tim Horner here, who's substituting for Baron von Raschke. We haven't talked about you spending a lot of time in Canada. What can you tell us about being in Cops Coliseum in Hamilton here?
Yeah, that was like a 2 or 3 or 4 day loop, right? Something like that.
You know, I'm not exactly sure what all you're doing with Mosca, but I do know that you also had a show that same day in Toronto because the Mosca show was a matinee. So that night you were in Toronto, and then the very next day you were in Brantford, and the following day you were in Peterborough, Ontario. So I think this Mosca thing is just a one-off, and then it's just regular JCP shows as a little trip through Canada.
It was a rare trip up there. We took the G1 Gulfstream, so that made travel a lot easier. We didn't have nearly the following, I don't think, that WWF at the time had in Canada. They were the hot commodity. But, 3,000 people in the afternoon, first time in, that's not too bad either.
As I mentioned, that night you're in Toronto, you're going to be beating Tim Horner. The next day, you're going to pick up a win on a TV taping over Hector Guerrero. That's in Brantford, Ontario. Work with him again in Peterborough on the 17th. And then you're back stateside on the 20th. This time you'll be in Jacksonville in front of 8,000 fans. You'll do a TV taping here where we'll have Tully, Lex, Ole, and Arn taping on Bob, Armstrong, Dutch Mantell, Eddie Roberts, and Ricky Lee Jones. I guess we were just looking for bodies at the end of that. And then we've got a Sunday edition taping where we would see Ole and Arn take on David Isley and Tommy Angel. Of course, this is all happening on the weekend of the 20th and 21st here. So let's play a little bit from the 21st. We've got some syndicated shows here, and part of that involves a promo with Arn Anderson and the Nature Boy himself. Let's take a listen.
Here's Arn Anderson taking on Ron Garvin in Fayetteville.
It goes like this, Tony Giovanni. Anytime you got the 4 horsemen in town, somebody's got some clout somewhere. I don't know who spent the big bucks, but somebody did to get the horsemen at the Cumberland County Arena. So it goes like this. First of all, Ronnie Garvin, punch me all you want. Do I look like I've got a face that hasn't been punched? It's no big deal. What you do is when you get punched and you go down, you just get back up and you feed them again. You understand what I'm saying? So you're not going to knock me out. Then we're all going to take a seat. Fletcher takes out Murdoch. Luger takes out Horner. Then we sit down and we watch our cousin Ric Flair do what he does better than anybody else. Wyndham, that's defend that world heavyweight title.
What a night it's going to be. The 4 horsemen. All of us in Fayetteville, North Carolina. All of us styling and profiling. All of us with our dukes in the air. And Barry Wyndham, you're not spoiling that for me. I don't like Fayetteville, but I'll guarantee you this. I'm going to turn it on. And in Fayetteville, you're going to be mine all night long. Woo!
But do you miss the era where, those little live promos like that to sell live events where that was a thing? I mean, you don't really have to do that anymore. It's just the live event business is done with professional wrestling, at least in my eyes. And back in the day, it was such a regular part. Is it something you miss?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's where you learn.
Yeah.
That's where you make a mistake, and you can fix it. And if, you're not quite comfortable doing a promo, you can always go, hey, cut, let's redo that if you have to. It's very seldom done because you learn more by your mistakes than you do the things that you do well in this business. So a lot of things would go on, through. I tell you the one thing, again, I'm just watching the evolution of this thing with Luger, and for Ole to have not had a opinion about Luger yet.
Yeah.
Jumps off the page to me.
Yeah. Let's keep it going. Let's mention you're going to be in Philadelphia in singles action against Ricky Lee Jones on the 21st. There'll be 7,216 fans. On the 22nd, you'll be teaming with Lex Luger to take on Denny Brown and Ricky Lee Jones at a matinee show in Asheville. That night, you're in Roanoke, Virginia on February 22nd. This time it's you and Ole teaming up to take on David Isley and Tommy Angel. On the 23rd, you're working second from the top with Jimmy Garvin. Haven't spent a lot of time talking about Jimmy Garvin here on the show. What do you think of his presentation? All the sequins and of course he had his lady there spraying the air freshener, and he's teasing the hair, and it was a different look. I've always really enjoyed his stuff. He's like a guilty pleasure of mine as an in-ring performer. What do you think?
Well, yeah, because he was a tremendous, after you got all the fluff out of the way, he's a great worker.
Yeah.
And great hair. He didn't need all that hair.
Well, he doesn't have it these days, as you know.
Good.
Cue Ball Jones these days.
Very good.
Yeah.
For me to have nothing to be the human coconut and him to have all that hair, that's bullshit.
I agree.
It's God playing a rib. It's okay. Nobody to really address on that, if that's the case. I mean, you're going to call God out on that?
Well, he did give you a Bulldog championship.
He did. Wait a minute. What did he? Yeah, God did that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll take it. If it took divine intervention, I'm good.
Did you think I meant Jimmy Garvin?
Yeah, I was wondering how Jimmy Garvin pulled that off.
I could see it click. He's like, oh, he meant God. Yep. Okay. Yeah, that one I'll take. Not Jimmy. No, Jimmy wasn't there.
I should have been a lot nicer to Jimmy Garvin if he had that kind of influence.
It happened in the 90s. Shit. What were we doing?
Wow.
Then we do a TV taping in Rockville on February 24th. Here we're going to see, and this is kind of fun, Arn, Tully, and Lex taking on Denny Brown, Ricky Lee Jones, and Eddie Roberts. Roberts is going to submit to the human torture rack from Lex Luger. But prior to the bout, Bob Caudle is going to be doing a ringside interview with Ric Flair. And Flair's going to talk about Nikita, Dusty, Wahoo, Barry, Garvin, both of them, the Armstrongs. And then he's going to send a message to Precious. It's funny that we were just talking about Garvin, and now it feels like, hey, Flair's going to give her a little shout out. What do you think of Precious? I mean, one of the rare commodities in wrestling, Mr. Garvin and her stayed together all those years, just like you and Aaron. That's pretty uncommon. Maybe they were an uncommon duo, huh?
Quality lady. Nothing but nice, nothing but professional, always, all the time. And they had their gig and they were good at it. She complimented him big time, but they were just quality people. They knew to separate business from pleasure, and they were just a joy to be around. Nice folks.
That same day, you're doing double duty. It'll be you and Ole taking on Larry Stevens and Johnny Ace. Ace is going to submit to the old standing armbar from Ole, which was par for course here in 86 and 87 for Arn and Ole. Then we're going to have a debut in Hammond, Indiana. This is something that stuck out like a sore thumb. You guys had never ran Jim Crockett Promotions Wrestling here in Hammond, Indiana. It's a civic center. And here's the card. Dick Murdoch over Ricky Lee Jones, Misty Blue over Linda Dallas. Hey, you ever hear anything about Misty Blue over the years?
I have no idea who that is.
Apparently, as the rumor goes, before she got into wrestling was an adult film star. Did you ever hear about that?
No.
Then it was Lex Luger. He's going to defeat Baron von Raschke. And then we've got Ron Garvin defeating Arn Anderson by DQ. And then we've got Tully taking on Tim Horner, Ricky and Robert taking on Rick Rude and Manny Fernandez for the tag titles, and Ric Flair wrestling Barry Windham in the main event for the world title. Here's the reason this sticks out. It's in a civic center and there's 500 fans there. What? How's that possible, dude?
Do you know where Hammond is?
No, I don't. And apparently neither did anybody else.
Nobody else does either. It is hard to get to. It is not in a nice area of town. The building is a dump. It's on the outskirts of Chicago, and it's really, back before GPS and all that.
Yeah.
Difficult place to find, really was.
Supposedly it seats 4,500 folks. And you had 500, dude. Well, I mean, is this the local promoter just picking a bad building, a bad town? I mean, it's the same TV. It's TBS.
Maybe they didn't want to see it.
Well,
what else could it be?
It's just amazing to me when you've got, all the big guns, and it's just doesn't click. We're not done though. We still got a couple shows left. We got Minneapolis, Minnesota, February 26th, 1,100 fans there. Once again, you're teaming with Lex, but this time Ole's in the group too. So maybe this is where we'll start to see those seeds start to happen. It's Lex, Arn, and Ole taking on Wahoo, Tim Horner, and Baron von Raschke. I think that's the second time they've been on the same team, the other time being the 8-man. The next day, February 27th, 3,000 fans are here in Albany. You're working second from the top, and you're going to beat Brad Armstrong. Also on the 28th, it's back for TV. And this is going to be a pretty big show, because this is where it all goes down, and we're going to play it. But the gist is Ole and Arn are going to beat Alan Martin and Randy Mulkey by submission. Ole's going to apply that dreaded arm bar. Of course, that's all she wrote. But then afterwards, he's going to come over to the commentary area, and he's got some things to say. So we're just going to jump right into that, because actually before we do that, maybe we should lay the groundwork here. We'll play some other clips from that same weekend.
We are back at ringside. Members of the Four Horsemen, Tully Blanchard, James J. Dillon, and their associate Lex Luger.
I've been sitting back listening to all the revelries today about the great night in Pittsburgh last night, how a record was broken in the Civic Center, an all-time record for professional wrestling nights. And hey, I think that's great. But the Horsemen had a big week too. The other night we sold out Hammond, Indiana, jumped in the limousines into Chicago to show Chicago how the Horsemen like to party. And when Chicago said, hey, we can't handle this anymore, Chicago's going to bed, then we jumped in the limousine with the General Bruce MacArthur and boogied on down to Cicero and put them to bed. And that's the way the Horsemen do it, right, Tully? 24 hours a day. JJ, being a Horseman is 24 hours a day. But Tony Schiavone, the Space Mountain Net Tour was alive, exciting, and well, from Chicago to Minneapolis to Pittsburgh. And you know what? Baltimore's coming pretty soon, right? We talk about the Space Mountain Nets. They're hiring extra security at the arenas when Lex Luger walks that aisle, because the women are going, their estrogen levels are surging, their hormones are surging, they're stuffing dollar bills, 5, 10s down my trunk to walk the aisle, they're clawing, they're grabbing, they just want to touch. See if it's for real. It's for real, ladies. Lex Luger is all there, the ultimate, the total package, and he is so happy to be associated in a part of the group, the elite group, the Horsemen. Right now, the epitome of the Horsemen is in the ring. I'm talking about the great Ole Anderson, Arn Anderson, the greatest tag team in wrestling history, and they're going to show you again today just how the Horsemen do it. All right.
So there you go. The groundwork is laid. I do want to mention, I think that may have been a stone cold fact, what our man JJ was saying there about Pittsburgh. I didn't mention it because you weren't on the card. But the day before this, February 27th, they've got 17,521 fans. It's a legitimate sellout in Pittsburgh. Got to be one of the biggest crowds in JCP history. And I believe that whole Pittsburgh record. I mean, that seems totally legit to me. Of course, we're going to get things done here with the arm bar. And then, as we said, there's something going down after. Let's take a listen.
Up in Baltimore.
They're awesome.
You're looking at the original Horseman, The Rock. He and Gene Anderson, the greatest tag team combination in wrestling history. And what did he do? Ole Anderson opened his arms to Ric Flair. The rest is destiny. Ric Flair, the greatest heavyweight champion of all time. And then to complete the tradition, the original Four Horsemen. Who comes in but Arn Anderson to complete the unit? And then when Gene Anderson went down, it created a big void. And what happens? Ole Anderson opens his arms to Tully Blanchard. JJ, wait just a minute. I believe he said
that we let an outsider in, is the way he put the terminology. Yeah, he might have said that, but hey, but this outsider, JJ, right here, world's television champion, the proof is in the pudding.
You got the
Am I
proof.
right or
That's
wrong?
exactly right.
Okay, here's Ole.
Is that supposed to be something that you want to say to me or what?
If the shoe fits, wear it, Ole. If you'd have been taking care of business instead of that snot-nosed kid, you'd be...
Who are you? Oh! Goodness gracious. Okay, fans, we're gonna have to take a break.
Man, how about that? It finally goes down, but not the way maybe you think. I think the way it was looking so far, maybe it was going to be Ole attacking Luger. He didn't want the new guy there. Instead, he smacked Tully in the mouth. That was a pretty big deal. What was going on behind the scenes? How did we get to this creative? What do you remember hearing about? Well, this is the direction we're headed.
Well, from day one, Ole had said he was going to, ride with the Horsemen. But when his kid is wrestling at UTC, he's going to take off and he's going to watch him wrestle. And that was said way back, before
85.
the fact.
Yeah.
Before the fact. So he had planted that seed already on a legitimate, but legitimately,
Yeah.
he was going to take time off. Tully to say that about his kid, because at that time, obviously Tully didn't have any kids, for him to take a cheap shot. That's why Tully Blanchard had so much heat and has heat today. Only he would get that much mileage out of saying something like that. And only he would say something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it had a lot more impact than if Luger said it. And that would have been a terrible booking right out of the gate anyway, Luger and Ole.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, we're not done with this show. Of course, they were just throwing to a break. So let's come back from commercial and let's see what happens when we hear from JJ again.
Mountain out of a molehill, all right? Let's get off the subject and talk about something else. You got a match in the ring. You're paid to be television commentators, not to second guess what the Horsemen are doing.
JJ, you don't know what JJ, what happened.
Don't tell me what I know.
JJ, this is big news. We talk about the four horsemen all the time here on TV. You're at the top of the list. You said it yourself. This is big news. As a matter of fact, it warrants taking a look at once again. I think we should see this tape. Can we roll this tape again? I'm glad you came out here. Can we take a look at the tape?
Created a big void. And what happens? Ole Anderson opens his arms to Tully Blanchard. JJ, wait just a minute. I believe he said that we let an outsider in, is the way he put the terminology. Yeah, he might have said that, but hey, but this outsider, JJ, right here, world's television champion, the proof is in the pudding.
You got the
Am I
proof.
right or
That's
wrong?
exactly right.
Okay, here's Ole.
Is that supposed to be something that you want to say to me or what?
If the shoe fits, wear it, Ole. If you'd have been taking care of business instead of that snot-nosed kid, you'd be...
Who are you? Oh! Goodness gracious. Okay, there it was once again. Now, you're just shaking this off.
Right, like I said, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. The Horsemen are as tight a unit as they've been all along. This is just a little, listen, when you got a successful group like the Horsemen, you're bound to have some little things internally that happen, right?
I'll agree
And
with
these
that.
things can be smoothed over. You're trying to create a problem that doesn't exist. Now, something has happened that needs to be rectified, and I think if Ole Anderson is still somewhere in the studio, and I would assume he is, I think if he just comes out here and says, look, I'm sorry for what happened, the matter is closed, and I think that's all that needs to be done at this point. And if Ole's here, I'd appreciate if he'd come out. If he'd just come out and just say, I'm sorry, and the matter is closed. Well, I'll take care of setting everything right.
He's not coming out. We got to go to a break, JJ. We'll be back,
I think
fans.
you can at least give him a minute or something to get out here.
And it's coming. We go to a break. We're stretching it out. It's good TV. Let's hear the end.
Earlier, we had to go to a break. Maybe we didn't give Ole enough time to come out.
Listen, the Horsemen are very intense individuals. Sometimes emotions have a tendency to get a little high-strung. And a couple of the Horsemen were just, maybe they didn't understand why Ole wanted to sit up in the bleachers and cheer his son on to the state regional final somewhere here in Georgia, rather than be running where the Horsemen thought he should be, because at that point, maybe he'd be a world champion. Now, Ole, you've been a little stubborn all your life, a little pig-headed sometimes. Sometimes you got to sit you down and explain explain the facts of life. Now, what happened is no big thing. But to make things right, Ole, I think you owe the Horsemen an apology. You owe Tully Blanchard an apology, and maybe you owe me an apology. I don't know. But I think if you're still in the building and I'm told that you're here somewhere, I think, Ole, in all fairness, if you just come out here, and I think it needs to be public because you took the opportunity to do it in front of who knows how many millions of people. All I'm asking, Ole, is get out here. Don't put me on the spot and embarrass me any further. Get out here and tell the whole world you put your foot in your mouth. You're sorry. I'll smooth it over with Blanchard. I'll smooth it over with everybody else. And it's over with. Now, don't keep me waiting. How much time's left in the program?
We don't only have a couple of minutes left in the program.
Apologize to me.
And you talk about the unity of the Horsemen? Okay, we'll see about the unity of the Horsemen right now.
We don't need to see any interviews. We need to get Ole Anderson out here. If I got to buy some time to keep this program on the air, I'll do it. How much is it quick? Somebody get a phone call.
We're about a minute
I
now.
got money.
I know you have money,
Somebody
JJ.
call
Not
Turner.
disputing that.
Cancel the news or whatever you want. I'll stay on the air here till we get Ole Anderson out here. If it takes 5 minutes or 10 minutes, we got money too, right? We're staying on the air. I don't care what he is. At this point, he's embarrassing.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Ole, thank you very much for coming out.
Tell you like it is. I don't appreciate you talking about my son, and as far as I'm concerned, you're a scumbag.
Whoa!
You were on the That's totally.
I don't know, but you can forget about the unity you talked about right there with Ole Anderson. Goodness. They are back, as you can see, back behind our podium right here. Fans are on their feet. We are right near the end of our program. This is the Four Horsemen. JJ.
Well, how about it? That's how the show goes off the air. JJ Dillon on the receiving end of a blow from Ole Anderson, and Tully Blanchard just couldn't stand for that. And man, it looks like there's trouble on the home front for the Horsemen. This was a pretty big dang angle for the Horsemen here, was it not?
No fixing that one. Can't wait till next Saturday. How about you?
Yeah, man. You talk about a cliffhanger. That was good TV.
Major hook.
Yeah. Well, and we hope it was a good hook for you, because we're going to pick up where we left off. A lot happening in March of '87. Of course, we're going to be talking about how we progressed the whole Horseman and Lex Luger and Ole situation. But we're also going to get the mysterious disappearing act of Dennis Condrey. I think his last show is towards the end of March here in 1987. This was a fun show, man. A lot of stuff happening for you guys here in February of '87.
Yep, business was it was still hot. I mean, 17,000 in Pittsburgh. Wow.
Yeah, big time house. You finished the show, or finished the month rather, on the 28th in Taylorsville, North Carolina. It's a fundraiser for the Alexander County Rec Department. You and Bob Armstrong, probably a night off. But man, you're back and running come March 1st. There's going to be 9,000 people in Virginia. We're going to have big crowds all over, but we're going to have some interesting small ones too. Like, we're going to talk about when you guys visit Birmingham, Alabama, the Continental Territory, if you will. And BJCC, the Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center, is a pretty doggone big arena, biggest in the whole state of Alabama, which I realize doesn't say a ton, but still only 750 fans there. But then you got sellouts in other towns. It's interesting. We're not quite to the very end of the territories, but we're not too far away. But what do you know? We slide into Greensboro, 15,000 fans. It's still great to be employed by Jim Crockett Promotions, right?
You betcha. All we had to do, and again, we're all geniuses on Monday morning, all we had to do was stay on the East Coast. Jim Crockett could have ran, his territory and expanded up as far as Philly and Baltimore and went down to Florida and probably still been in business.
Well, that's a story for another day, but we greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for being kind to me today, Arn, after you took us to the whipping shed this past week. But I'm looking forward to next week, man. Talking about 87 has been fun so far, and it's definitely a a transitional period in professional wrestling. We know Watts is going to go out. You guys are going to pick him up. WrestleMania 3 is going to happen. Of course, they're going to try to sabotage Starrcade on pay-per-view later in the year. A lot of meat left on the bone here in 1987. Next week should be fun.
Yes, sir. And everyone seems to be enjoying it. Everyone I've talked to, they're liking this format because it kind of lets them, be the fly on the wall and live some of those experiences with us as we go back and remember. And that's got a different taste to it, I think.
Yes, it does. And we're hoping you're coming back for a second helping next week right here on Arn. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.